Okay, among those who said they will join, few are not there yet. But it's already 8:12. We'll start. We'll start. So who would like to read? Dhaval Bhai has not joined. Dhaval Bhai is there. Uh, who would like to read?
I could read.
I can read.
Please read, Yogesh Bhai.
The Atman, the Jivatman, and the psychic. The Jiva is realized as the individual self, Atman, the central being above the nature, calm, untouched by the movements of nature, but supporting their evolution, though not involved in it. Through this realization, silence, freedom, wideness, mastery, purity, a sense of universality in the individual as one center of this divine universality become the normal experience. The psychic is realized as the Purusha behind the heart. It is not universalized like the Jivatman, but is the individual soul supporting from its place behind the heart center the mental, vital, physical, psychic evolution of the being in nature. Its realization brings bhakti, self giving, surrender, turning of all the movements Godward, discrimination, and choice of all that belongs to the divine truth, good, beauty, rejection of all that is false, evil, ugly, discordant, union through love and sympathy with all existence, openness to the truth of the self and the divine.
Hmm. 1 second. It's a longish section. We should break it into parts. 2 people can read today. ठीक है, Yogesh bhai, you read the next two, and then we'll go one by one.
Okay. The psychic is a spark of the divine, but I do not know that it can be called a portion of the Jivatma. It is the same put forward in a different way. The Bindu of which you speak is not the psychic being, but the soul or spark of the divine which supports each existence. The psychic being is usually seen in form as a Purusha. The psychic being is the soul or spark of the divine developing a form of itself in the evolution which travels from life to life. The Jivatma and the soul are the same, but in two different statuses. The Jivatma is the Ansha of the divine, standing above the consciousness as the individual self and unchanged by the evolution. The soul is the same, descended into the evolution and developing its consciousness from life to life until, in the opening of knowledge, the psychic being realizes its oneness with the self above. The ego is quite different. It is a creation of Prakriti and part of Prakriti, which centralizes the thoughts, desires, passions, etc., of the nature and is involved in them entirely. The ego is not a real and external existence,
Eternal.
but is not a real and eternal. Sorry, the ego is not a real and eternal existence, but only a formation of nature. It has to disappear by the coming of knowledge and be replaced by the true psychic and spiritual self.
Right. Thank you. 817. Okay. The Atman, the Jivatman, and the psychic. The Jiva is realized as the individual self, Atman, the central being above the nature, calm, untouched by the movements of nature, but supporting their evolution, though not involved in it. So, yeah. When we had branched out to reading this section, Spark Soul, Psychic Being, and Central Being, I think that was the title of the section. So basically, the entity above the manifestation. Uh, Over the head also he says, but it says it does not have a particular place. It had come in the part that we read last time here. The self has no separate place. It is everywhere. This one, right? So the jiva is realized as the individual self. As I said several times before, the word jiva is used roughly equivalently for the English word individual, because jiva means living. Literally, that is what it means. But it is only when life is there that we can say that this thing is a separate life and this thing is a separate life. That is what sort of constitutes individuality or conceptualizes individuality to the human perception. So that is why this word is used for individual, jiva, the Sanskrit word. The jiva is realized as the individual self, Atman, the central being above the nature, calm, untouched by the movements of nature, but supporting their evolution, though not involved in it. We have been talking about this for almost 2 months now, maybe even slightly more. So the key word here is, with reference to our own life experience in psychology, untouched. All of us at some point in our life, or for a certain period, or whatever may be the duration, have felt within ourselves, most of us would have felt something within us which is untouched by anything that happens within us. Ever the same, it is untouched. And this is basically our gateway to liberation, our key to liberation. But yeah, till such time, I mean, when the full liberation happens, to remain unperturbed, and it's very important to develop the contact with this calm, untouched thing, so that uh, experiencing the world with all its shocks and whatever it has to offer to us, pleasures and pains and whatever, we can remain ourselves, ever the same, untouched. We have all had it at some point or other in our life. To become more aware of it, to meditate on it, basically, to place the poise of our consciousness in that untouched entity, so that is the goal. Basically, that is what constitutes freedom in the spiritual sense, right? So this one word here in this sentence, moving forward, through this realization, what happens? Silence, freedom, wideness, mastery, purity, a sense of universality in the individual as one center of this divine universality become the normal experience. Very important sentence. So I'll just read it again and we can try to mull over it. Through this realization means the realization of the Jivatman, the calm, untouched entity above the movements of nature. Through this realization, silence, freedom, wideness, mastery, purity, a sense of universality in the individual as one center of this divine universality. So there is an experience of universality as well as individuality. But how is the individual felt? As one center of this divine universality. This becomes the normal experience. In other words, we can say the individual becomes a universal individual. We realize, again, it cannot be rephrased. The Sri Aurobindo's language can actually never be rephrased. He's not written it, he's not thought it out. It's come from above, whatever he has written. I mean, especially after his realization, after 1908, after the Nirvana realization. A sense of universality in the individual. I'll just read once again from the beginning, and then move to the next sentence. Through this realization, silence, freedom, wideness. We could also use the word vastness. That will give an even greater sense of that thing. Mastery, purity, a sense of universality in the individual as one center of this divine universality become the normal experience. As opposed to this, or in contrast to this, the psychic is realized as the Purusha behind the heart. It is not universalized. By this, he means the heart center. In the heart region, behind the heart center. He said it very clearly that the psychic is not the Hrita Padma or the Anahat Chakra. It is behind it. I think he said it. If not, he will say it. The psychic is realized as the Purusha behind the heart. It is not universalized like the Jivatman, but is the individual soul supporting from its place behind the heart center the mental, vital, physical, psychic evolution of the being in nature. By this is meant the development of our mental personalities, our vital personality, life after life, even our physical personality, its flexibility, its beauty, and all those things, right? And our psychic personality, because as we would remember, there is the spark or the psychic entity, and there is the psychic individual or the psychic being. The psychic being is not there in the beginning. That gets evolved in the process of the evolution, right? Psychic evolution basically means the depth, how deep you have become, from what depths you are functioning as an individual. That evolution of the depth in us, that is one way in which the psychic evolution can be defined. He is himself defining it further on. Its realization Mane, the psychic realization brings bhakti. Now, I mean, since it is such a um, common word in India, well known in spiritual seekers and all, one should understand what are the types of bhakti, what is the bhakti that is truly desired. I've said this in earlier sessions, I'm saying it again. Repetition can feel a little boring at times, but आवृत्ति इसको कहते हैं, multiple doing of something, especially of a text or something, japa, etc. In Adhyatma Vidya, at times it is necessary because our mind has a tendency to fall back to the normal, right? So sometimes it is. So Shuddha Ahaituki Bhakti. That is the desired bhakti. Pure, motiveless devotion. I love the divine simply because he is he and I am I and I cannot help it. That is the bhakti that is desired. That is the true love, absolute, the absolute need of the soul for the divine. This is a phrase from a letter of Sri Aurobindo. That thing called soul in us, it has an absolute need of the divine. More absolute than the need of the body for food or of the desire being or vital being for, you know, interactions of that kind or anything. Its realization brings bhakti. Bhakti ke again in the Gita, our main text which we are reading, it is defined. 4 types of bhaktas are described in the Gita in the 7th chapter. We will not go into that for this purpose currently, or if somebody wants as a question, I can then take it up and try to explain on it more. That devotion which springs from the very truth and the very, you know, basically from the very core of my being. वो है, मैं हूं, मैं उसका हूं, and that's why I love him. And there is no reason for that. You love the divine simply because he is he and you are you. जो अर्थार्थी होता है, Krishna says, Sri Bhagavan says, sorry, that he is also udara. Udaraha sarva eva iti. Artharthi means want something. Or artha, as the Gita says. जो distressed में है, जो who is in some kind of difficulty, and then he calls out to the divine. Artha bhakta. Or jigyasu, who is curious, who wants to know. And therefore, he's a seeker or he's a devotee, right? But then the Gita, jnani, he who has realized that he is identical with the divine. For that, a moment of identity is necessary. Without experience, all this is basically preparation. One needs to feel one's identity with the divine, even if for a moment or a split second or whatever, and some kind of intense yoga, whichever yoga comes naturally to oneself, karma yoga, jnana yoga, bhakti yoga, or a combination of these, whatever. It has to be practiced intensely. Sri Aurobindo, whom we are following, what did he write to his wife when he was in that intense period of his yoga? I have decided to see God face to face, and I'm going to do whatever is necessary to come to that, experience. So it is necessary. Through a practice, through an intense practice of yoga, it is necessary to feel one's identity with the divine, that soham asmi of the Isha Upanishad. वो जब तक नहीं होगा तब तक वो नहीं आएगा. That true bhakti will not come. Right? So moving forward, its realization brings bhakti, self-giving, surrender. The Gita's last word, 18.66. Sarva dharman parityajya mamekam sharanam vraja. Aham tva sarva papebhyo mokshayishyami mahashucha. Sharanam vraja. Taking total refuge in the divine. Sri Aurobindo, about his own yoga, he says, surrender is the first word of this yoga, surrender is the last word of this yoga. The path is difficult, self-surrender makes it something like this. There is a quotation of Mother, very, very beautiful and powerful. Let me. The way is long, self-surrender makes it short. The path is difficult. Perfect trust makes it easy. I'll share this on the group. It's worth memorizing and repeating to oneself like a mantra constantly. The path is long, self-surrender makes it short. The way is difficult. Perfect trust makes it easy. Easy makes it easy. Okay. Self-giving, surrender, turning of all the movements. This is what the psychic realization will do. Have I had the psychic realization or not? Look for these signs within yourself. Are you experiencing this? Are you experiencing that all overpowering love for the divine without any reason? Or how often are you experiencing it? Are you in that state continuously? How complete is your surrender or your trust in the divine? Are you ready to abandon yourself completely to the divine Shakti? Right. Turning off all the movements Godward. कोई भी थॉट हो, कोई भी एक्शन हो, कुछ भी हो, वो अल्टीमेटली घूम फिर करके द टेंडेंसी विल बी टू कनेक्ट इट टू गॉड समहाउ and to turn it towards God somehow. That is a sign that the psychic being has started coming forward. It has started governing the being. Turning off all the movements Godward. Discrimination and choice. Viveka. That is a Sanskrit word for the English word discrimination. Discrimination and choice of all that belongs to the divine truth. Choosing the divine truth. Taking sides with the divine truth. Like in the Kurukshetra war. The Pandavas take side with the divine. And all those who take the side of the Pandavas. Like that. That is an example. Choice of
So,
all that belongs. Yeah, I'm just finishing it. Belongs to the divine truth. Good. Beauty. वही जो सत्यम शिवम सुंदरम हम बोलते आ रहे थे as the sort of a formula for the psychic being. Rejection of all that is false, ugly. Sorry, false, evil, ugly, discordant. Whatever creates a discord or a disharmony. Union through love and sympathy with all existence. Openness to the truth of the self and the divine. These are all signs of the psychic realization. 1 second. Yeah. Basically, the deeper movements of the heart and based on the truth of the heart, which is oneness. Yeah, somebody was saying something.
Anmol, you just now said that
Oh.
taking side with you gave the example of Pandava just now.
Yeah.
Could you just explain that, please?
Yeah, basically, see, there is a constant battle going on in the world between the divine and the anti-divine forces.
You
And
mean to
for
say
the,
aparakriti and aparakriti?
you could say that, I mean, see, like the Pandavas, they were not established in the Paraprakriti. Being established in the Paraprakriti means you're already divine beings and all that. So they were not that. They were sattvic beings. You could say the fight between the sattvic and the rajaso tamasic. You could say that. And specifically, like, the tamasic powers which want to destroy everything. Right? So taking the sides of the divine, fighting for the divine side. And very well example of this in the Aurobindonian sphere, or basically those who know about Sri Aurobindo, when the Second World War happened, Sri Aurobindo even sent a sum of money from the ashram to the government in Delhi as a concrete sign of his support to the British effort in the Second World War, because he could see that even though the British are ignorant and this and that, but their victory at least keeps the chances of evolution on Earth alive. Whereas if the Axis powers and Hitler win, then the evolution will be impeded by a couple of 1,000 years, is what he said. This is like the most famous example given in the ashram here, like that. But in today's times also, basically taking sides with the divine and fighting for the divine truth. Why? Choice of all that belongs to and it is not sufficient to say everything is divine, हर एक का अपना अपना सच होता है, वो सब ठीक है. But when it comes, you have to take sides. Do not be just a fence sitter. Take sides with the truth. I know I am almost like preaching battle, but the Gita does not. Gita, आप जानते हैं कि आपको क्या कर्म करना चाहिए, आपके पास वो शक्ति है, वो ज्ञान है. Despite that, if you do not do that action, you are doing more damage to the world by your inaction, is what the Gita teaches. So basically that. यहाँ पे उतना stark नहीं बोला है. Here he is not using the language of battle and war and all that, but discrimination of choice of all that belongs to the divine truth, good, beauty, and
So-
rejection of all that is false, evil, ugly, discordant.
So that means even 100 people are on one side and you feel they are wrong,
Absolutely.
and you are the only person
Absolutely.
who you
Absolutely.
feel that you have to be on the
Absolutely.
truth side. That is what you're trying to say.
রবীন্দ্র उसमें একলা চলো রে,
Ah.
যদি তেরে ডাক শুনে কেউ না আসে তবে একলা চলো রে. Nobody listens to you, walk alone. There is a very, very powerful aphorism of Sri Aurobindo on this. मैं वो ग्रुप में डाल दूंगा. He says that, like, वो अर्जुन का actually that aphorism is biographical, मतलब वो कृष्णा की लाइफ से है कि when Duryodhana goes to ask for support and Arjuna goes. So Duryodhana chooses the army, whereas Krishna chooses the divine, who says that I will not even take arms. But that is the choice which, if and Arjuna is given the first choice. If he had made a mistake of discrimination at that point, कि यार ये तो लड़ेगा नहीं, कुछ नहीं करेगा, क्या फायदा होगा, that is what Duryodhana thought. But that is that wisdom, that discrimination, that no, what I want is the divine. That is one example which Sri Aurobindo has given. Very, very strong aphorism is there. Very violent and क्या बोलना चाहिए उसको, bloody language, bloody in the sense of रक्तपात वाला language है उस aphorism में. I'll share it separately after the class.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Anmol, in this line, it starts by saying, through this realization, silence, and after that he says freedom. What are we supposed to understand by saying, through this realization, freedom? What does freedom stand here from? Freedom from what?
Total freedom, complete freedom, utter and absolute freedom. Freedom of a kind of transcendent freedom. Untouched है ना, that is what it means. It is not touched by anything. No matter what happens to you, you remain unaffected. That kind of freedom. अभी क्या होता है कि that untouched part ना, we are in contact with it. Obviously, without that we cannot survive. Moments or sometimes in a longer lapses of time, we are feeling it or experiencing it. But when that becomes stable, nothing affects you. You are in that freedom, nothing affects you. Perfectly free. You can appear very cruel to the world कि इसको तो कोई emotions ही नहीं है, कुछ नहीं है. If you read the second chapter, very stoic. That stoic discipline, it is part of the second chapter of the Gita. You are totally unaffected by anything that happens. एकदम निर्विकार, एकदम कोई भी चीज आपको मतलब विचलित तो छोड़ो, हर्षित भी नहीं करेगी, कुछ नहीं. You are totally free. And actually even greater, not just this. ये तो द्वंद्वातीत वाला freedom है, but basically total and utter freedom. You're perfectly free. I mean, it has to be experienced. These kind of words can only indicate towards that, but it has to be experienced. Untouched is a way towards that, towards understanding that. आपको कोई चीज से कुछ फर्क नहीं पड़ता. You're not disturbed, you're not perturbed, tormented, suffering, nothing. You are in that perfect freedom and you enjoy the ananda of that freedom.
Right. And towards the end, it says, and choice of all that belongs to the divine, truth, good, beauty.
Yes.
Now, this beauty,
yes.
What is this? I mean, there's a lot of reference to beauty. And, just to illustrate, like if you go down to Vrindavan, right? I mean, that's the place, there is so much of Krishna which is there. Yeah. And I mean, if you keep your eyes closed and you're thinking of the divine and of his Leela, it's beautiful. but the moment you open your eyes, there's open drain, there's filth, there's
Absolutely.
it's one of the most ghastly
Exactly.
sights in
This is
most of
what Mother
Vrindavan.
says. Mother
Hmm.
says that one of the reasons for India's downfall in the last 1,000 years or so has been that India has lost its sense of beauty. And what you are saying, absolutely, I have been to the place and all. So that is obviously not psychic, it is vital. If that psychic bhakti was there, there would be utter rejection of that kind of beauty. Come to the ashram and see such cleanliness. I mean, it is unbelievable. Whether in the dining room or in any guest house or in the ashram compound, cleanliness, I mean, is next to. Mother said,
Naughtiness.
cleanliness is the first indispensable step towards the supramental realization. बाकी सब भूल जाओ यार. First cleanliness. Printed है मदर के वर्क्स में. You might find कि what is mother doing? मतलब equating something so grand like supramental with a simple thing like cleanliness, but that is what she says. Cleanliness is the first indispensable step towards the supramental realization. So I agree with you. That is not psychic bhakti. Certainly not. You would be appalled by all that. वो गटर का जो नाली के कीड़ा गंदा गंदा जो होता है सारा वो रोड पे डला हुआ होता है. Obviously that is not psychic bhakti. Beauty, matlab, when you conceive of the divine consciousness, when you conceive of the form of the divine at a lesser level, I mean, flowers, like, उनके अंदर एक natural beauty होती है at a very, very, matlab, comparatively closer level. So, yeah. And rejecting all this, all that is degradation of bhakti.
Right, right.
मंदिर के
Perfect.
अंदर
Thank you.
प्रसाद जो है वो आपके पैरों में आ रहा है और उसकी वजह से इट्स बिकमिंग स्लिपरी एंड इट इज बिकमिंग स्टिकी. ऑब्वियसली ऑल दैट इज नॉट कमिंग फ्रॉम साइकिक. इट्स नॉट कमिंग फ्रॉम साइकिक. इट्स ऑल वाइटल.
Makes sense. Thanks.
यस, वेलकम. अरोड़ा जी.
The word freedom and then after that mastery.
Yeah.
To me, both are interlinked.
Only who is perfectly free can truly be a master. मदर ने एक जगह फ्रीडम की बहुत अच्छी डेफिनेशन दी है. फ्रीडम इज टू बी फ्री फ्रॉम डिजायर्स. ट्रू फ्रीडम इज टू बी फ्री फ्रॉम डिजायर्स.
They are all overlapping.
Yes, 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 yes. I might just say कि मतलब having enough money in the world or power in the world to get whatever you wish, that is not freedom. That is slavery to desires. That is slavery to the money power. That is slavery to the power type of power. True
I think
freedom is to be.
if we read all this sentence and all the adjectives used and take them in totality, I think it will give a different kind of understanding.
Different kind of understanding. मतलब it will give a more total and it will give a more total
Yes.
picture of that
Yes.
consciousness.
Yes.
Agree. इतना पावरफुल है, मतलब when you read it, it just makes you silent. अपने आप अंदर एक साइलेंस आने लगता है. It is so powerful. So powerful. I might actually say one point here regarding these letters which I have not mentioned in these classes so far. That is a little bit of a अंदर की बात जिसको बोलते हैं आश्रम में. Not अंदर की बात in that sense. But basically, the majority of the letters were written from the period of 1933 to 1937. And that time, actually, in the ashram, the number of the sadhaks was around 80 to 100 or so. By the time of 1938, it had become 150. And it was a very intense period of sadhana in the ashram. But there was a lot of resistance and lot of difficulties which were coming up in the disciples also, right? So because of that, this is my understanding or intuition or whatever, कि Sri Aurobindo's grace and compassion and love and wisdom and everything, it just poured out unbelievably in the letters. And he was sitting whole night, sometimes till 5 in the morning, while writing these replies as letters to his disciples. So letters on yoga is very, very special because of this. It was dealing with all the difficulties and doubts and obscurities and all that part of human nature. And also, mind you, Essays on the Gita was written first as Arya, then as a book, right? So वो कौन पढ़ेगा? Sri Aurobindo has no control. But these letters were written only to disciples. So there is another level of intimacy in the letters. Some of the things here a guru will say only to a disciple. He will not say to a lay reader or to a casual reader like that. तो बट मोर देन दैट इट इज दैट थिंग कि वो आश्रम में एक बहुत क्या कहना चाहिए इंटेंस फेस था, एंड देयर वाज अ लॉट ऑफ churning going on, and disciples were of all categories, kinds, natures, etc., etc. So basically Sri Aurobindo poured out a tremendous amount of compassion, love, energy, etc., to dissolve all those things, and all that has taken the form of the letters on yoga. So in my mind, I mean, this is one of the greatest, of course Savitri is considered, and it is his greatest gift. And merely to read Savitri is to transform oneself. But as regards getting, guidance and minute guidance, detailed guidance for changing one's nature and becoming a better person and evolving into the divine consciousness, in whatever I have read so far in last 17, 18 years, I have not come across anything superior to Letters on Yoga. It's just unbelievable. Unbelievable. So,
Anmol, another point,
yes.
as you said, we've been reading these for the last couple of months.
Yeah.
In what we've read just now, there is a concept which has been the first time. It's not something that we were exposed to earlier. And if I read this, it'll be nice to get more clarity from you.
Yes,
Because here it says a sense of universality in the individual as one center of this divine universality
Exactly.
becomes the normal experience.
Exactly. You are right. This
So
was
it's
not there
bringing
earlier.
both the things together.
Yes.
So
Sorry?
if you could just elaborate.
Yes. So a sense of universality in the individual as one center of this divine universality. So basically, you open to the sense of universality. Okay. You
Oneness,
realize
right?
that the truth is universal. It is all encompassing and universal, and you realize yourself simply as a center of that universality. You no longer give importance to your individual person, and yourself, basically you develop that sense of universality. Many of us would be feeling this, some time to time, or thoda regularly bhi rehta hoga in the back of the consciousness. It's not something very very far away from us. वो एक सेंस इस तरह की यूनिवर्सलिटी का रहता है. See, mind you also, these letters are written, as I said, mostly between the period 1933 to 1937. As far as evolution is concerned, a lot of water has flown under the bridge, like that. 1956 mein, the purpose for which they came, it happened. Then in 1969, other major realization, and the evolution is going at a very, very fast speed. So many of the things that are written here, they've already become normal to, how should I say, to a decent amount of humanity. वो already उनके लिए काफी natural हो रहा है. वो inner consciousness में उनकी already आ चुका है. इस phrase को और कैसे explain कर सकते हैं?
Sense of oneness भी बोल सकते हैं.
Yes. Universality means oneness.
Sense of oneness.
Yeah.
If you see this phrase, a sense of universality in the individual, and see the last phrase, last line, union through love and sympathy will all exist.
वो psychic का है. This letter is divided into two parts. So till the second sentence, till here he is talking about the central being. ठीक है, the Jivatman. इसके बाद he is talking from here till here, he is talking about the psychic. He is talking about these two parts. So union through love and sympathy, that is the psychic realization. That is through the heart. ठीक है, the deeper heart.
ये जो पहला वाला जो आपने बोला ना, this can be explained with
narrowness का
verse.
खत्म होना, sense of universality में narrowness का खत्म होना.
हाँ, विजुगुप्त सत्य, वो जो
Yes, we are sometimes sticking to our own narrow conceptions, any kind of fanaticism, any kind of sectarianism, any kind of othering कि ये वो है, ये मैं हूँ. नहीं, nothing. You realize the one self like that.
the Isha Upanishad verse
Yes, 6 and 7.
6 and 7 will the 3-point formula, one of the
Yes.
one self in all.
Yes, one self in all in oneself, and that one self as
becomes has become the all. Correct.
Yastu sarvani bhutani atmanyevanu pashyati sarvabhuteshu chatmanam ततो
न
न
विजुगुप्सते
विजुगुप्सते यस्मिन् सर्वाणि भूतानि आत्मैवाभूत विजानतः
तत्र
तत्र
को
को
मोहः
मोहः कः शोक एकत्वम् अनुपश्यतः.
So, Anmol, this freedom of doership, the way I understand this, all of us, as long as you're in the ego consciousness, you consider every action of whatever is being done by the mind body complex as you being the doer of it, right?
Exactly.
Now, the moment you look at the central being and the first few lines, it is saying that you, as a part of the central being, you become one center. That means the doership goes, and the freedom of the whole engagement of doership is now there's freedom because you are witnessing that it's the central being which is doing everything. That's why it's freedom, right?
Yes,
Because
yes,
otherwise you're always in the doership mode.
yes, exactly.
It
Ahankara
is
vimudhatma.
a binding. This is
Exactly.
unbound.
Exactly. The sense of doership goes away. It's a very high stage, matlab, to be iske, again, not to have a very great disconnect with the state also. It is there in our background and at times or for moments and this and that we have felt it. कभी ना कभी जरूर, लेकिन उसके अंदर fully stable होना, nothing is affecting you, you are in that total inner silence. Doesn't mean you're inactive, but that perfect silence is there in you. That perfect freedom, perfect wideness, total mastery, perfect purity. Perfect purity matlab you are totally immune to any desires or anything of that sort, right? A perfect universality. All this matlab it's
हाँ, वो
very high.
परमानेंट एस्टेब्लिशमेंट करने वाली बात है.
Yes,
ये
exactly.
उसका आना जाना रहेगा. इट इज नॉट इनफ, बट या इट इज अ पार्ट ऑफ द परमानेंसी, बट ग्रेजुअली.
Yes. But then
But
again,
Anmol, as you said, that when Shri Aurobindo said that I want to see the divine, right?
yes,
If you're
face
seeing
to
the
face,
divine
face to
face to
face, he said.
face, that is where both exist, right? I mean, what I loved about this, because this is for the first time in one space, he's talking about the existence of both a sense of universality in the individual as one center. So he's bringing individuality as a center, but in this
In
complete
this divine
universality.
universe.
So
Exactly.
he's bringing both together face to face.
Exactly.
We've never heard this in all the readings we've done in the last
It's
2
not
months.
been it,
Your
that's why I said कि phrases like this will come and it will be worthwhile to read this whole section even though there are repetitions. ऐसे phrases और भी आएंगे जिससे और nuances clear हो जाएंगे. और जो
Right.
yeah, they will all they are yet to come.
Anmol,
Yes.
even अगर हमने ये कब पढ़ा भी ना, like since we are reading all this, going through Aurobindo and everything, whatever you are explaining, even if we do not read it, even if we do not have gone through all that we are going through, as you age, you realize कि मेरे हाथ में कुछ भी नहीं था. मैंने कुछ किया ही नहीं. It just so happened. It kept on happening.
Exactly.
Then also you realize कि no, I'm not the doer.
Exactly. I mean, see, this is a shastra, but ये जो आपको अंदर से आ रहा है, ये आपको कौन सिखा रहा है? जो सबके
Exactly.
अंदर एकमात्र गुरु बैठा है, वो गुरु तो एक ही है ना. ये किताब किसने लिखी है? ये किताब भी तो उसी गुरु ने लिखी है.
Exactly. Right.
There is ultimately only one guru who is within us.
Yes.
So either you, and it's actually better to learn through life experience. वरना बुक्स वगैरह पढ़ने से ये अहंकार भी आ सकता है कि तब हम तो ऑलरेडी जानते हैं. अरे भैया, केवल मेंटली जानने से क्या होने वाला है? You have to realize it in your life experience, ना? But then again, the importance of the Shastra also cannot be.
Exactly.
Yeah, it is very important.
It cannot be denied.
Yeah, it is so perfectly articulated, so clearly given. He's giving you a glimpse of that consciousness. So, we are much the poor if we don't read such things. Much the poorer for it.
This gives
Even
more
if we
clarity
begin our
and more
day,
understanding.
Sri Aurobindo is synonymous with clarity.
and Anmol bhai, even if you begin your day by just reading one paragraph of any of Sri Aurobindo's writing, you stabilize my personal experience I am sharing. I just stabilize myself in that poise. Khatam baat. Within your day goes in that silence,
His words are not just words, they are just
No,
divine outpouring completely. We have around 20 minutes remaining. Shall I move forward?
Yeah.
Okay. The psychic is a spark of the divine, but I do not know that it can be called a portion of the Jivatma. It is the same put forward in a different way. So most probably the question that was put forward to him was, is the psychic a portion of the Jivatma? So no, it is the Jivatma which is a portion of the Paramatma, of the divine. Vai mamai vamsho jiva loke, jiva bhuta sanatanaha, 15.7 of the Gita. The psychic is a spark of the divine, but I do not know that it can be called a portion of the Jivatma. Now once again, if he is saying I do not know, this is his manner of speaking. वो एक इंग्लिश जेंटलमैनली वाला स्टाइल जो होता है, it does not mean that he does not know such a basic thing. He knows it. But it is his humility and it is just his style of writing and style of expression. But I do not know that it can be called a portion of the Jivatma. It is not a portion. It is the same thing, the Jivatma only put forward in a different way. It is the Jivatma which puts itself forward in the form of the psychic. Right? So that is that. Next. Any question?
The Jivatma, as I've read earlier also, it is unchanging.
Yes.
It does not evolve, yet it supports everything that continues, that goes on.
So the Jivatma is unchanging. It presides over the evolution of a particular manifestation, you can say. Okay? It is that thing which is manifesting as me and you and we are all Jivatmas. We are all Jivatmas. Okay? Essentially, we are all Jivatmas. Individual selves of the one divine. Right? That Jivatma, when it wants to evolve in this terrestrial world where evolution happens, then it sends forth this thing called the psychic or the psychic spark or soul spark, etc. And that spark evolves a psychic personality over lifetimes and lifetimes. And it is that psychic personality or psychic being, as it becomes more and more mature and stronger, our evolution becomes more and more Godward. That is what it is. Is it clear?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, welcome. Next. So again, most likely the person has maybe seen a Bindu or he has read the word Bindu. एक नाद बिंदु उपनिषद करके भी है. I have not read it. I simply know the name. So I do not know really what is the source of the word Bindu here. मतलब experience है या क्या है. But that doesn't matter. The Bindu of which you speak is not the psychic being, but the soul or spark of the divine which supports each existence. Okay, he's distinguishing between the psychic being and the soul. Shweta, you have a question? Acha, wo.
No, the Bindu,
Hmm.
you said, is it about Bindu Chakra?
बिंदु चक्र क्या होता है?
There is a Bindu Chakra where these Brahmins, they keep their hair, no?
नहीं, बिंदु चक्र
The
is
back
not one
side.
of the major chakras. वो कुछ minor उसमें
Not
होता
one of the major, yeah.
है. अच्छा, अच्छा.
But this is
नहीं, it's
also
not
not.
that. It's
Actually,
not that.
Anmol,
It's not that.
Bindu is
It's
the
not that.
place
He's
where
talking here
the
about a
Shika
spiritual
is
entity,
there.
Shweta.
हाँ. Correct.
हाँ, हरीश बोलिए.
I was saying Bindu is the place where the Shika is there, no? Usually, जो
That
Shika
is fine.
बोलते हैं.
That
Yeah.
is fine. But he's not talking about any physical place
Yeah,
here.
in this reference, it's not that, yes.
Exactly. So that was Shweta's question. So he's not talking about any physical space in the body here or physical point. He's talking about a spiritual entity. Okay.
Okay.
So the Bindu of which you speak is not the psychic being, but the soul or spark of the divine, which supports each existence. Clear enough? The psychic being is usually seen in form as a Purusha. ये significant है. ये significant है. I should say here, in the mother's agenda, there is the mention by mother of her seeing the form of the psychic being of a disciple. It was an American disciple. The Indian name given to her was Rijuta. उसमें R करके printed है मदर्स एजेंडा में. And she says she saw the psychic being of that person bigger than the physical body of that person. ठीक है? That is one. The psychic being is usually seen in the form as a Purusha. So Purusha means basically, man, human form. So other than that, I do not know of any other example जहां पे किसी का psychic being एक form में देखा गया हो. But this is a very important point what he's saying here. That जो वो बिंदु वाली चीज है, drop type का या कुछ है, that is the soul or spark. Whereas the psychic being is usually seen in form. उसका एक रूप है, आकृति है, as a Purusha. Yeah. The psychic being is the soul or spark of the divine, developing a form of itself in the evolution, which travels from life to life. Yeah. So when the soul or spark of the divine, when it develops a form of itself, we call that form the psychic being. And that evolution happens as the soul or spark travels from life to life. Okay. The Jivatma and the soul are the same, but in two different statuses. Actually, that word form, in the first sentence, it is bringing my attention back towards it. The psychic being is usually seen in form as a Purusha. So I'm just sharing some Upanishadic knowledge because of this opportunity. So the human form, because he's saying form as a Purusha. So it seems that it is some kind of a human akriti, जैसा हम लोगों का होता है. Male or female doesn't matter. There's hardly any difference between that. This form itself of the human being जो है, even I should say here कि जो future body है, about which Mother and Sri Aurobindo have spoken, the supramental body, which will be the body of the supramental race, the new race. Mother in 1972, May 1972, 6th May, I think, I'll share that entry. 3-4 things I have said I'll share that entry. She sees the future form, but even that future form is having that sort of human shape. So she describes the shoulders, she describes the waist, she describes the chest, like that, all that she describes. What I am trying to say is basically this human form जो हम लोगों का है, this is something very significant, right? In the evolution that nature has done, this is the most beautiful and perfect form that she has created through these eons and eons of evolution. It is something which has come from very high.
Sukritam eva.
Exactly. So what Dhaval Bhai is referring to, it is a phrase from the Aitareya Upanishad, Aitareya. It is one of the major Upanishads. So the story is there in the Aitareya Upanishad that when the gods, they were offered the form of a horse, कि आप इसमें enter कीजिए, they refused. When they were offered the form of the cow, they refused. But when they were offered the human form, they said Sukritam eva. This is well made indeed. Sukritam eva. And they entered into that form. Right? This is one of the reasons why we tend to admire our forms when we look at in the mirror, male or female. So इसके पीछे कोई vanity नहीं है. वो vanity भी होती है, no doubt. But this is the spiritual reason why we admire our forms when we see it in the mirror, because this is the most perfect form created by nature. Right? Another example of it. So when mother was in Algeria learning occultism from her teacher, so he put her in a trance and she left one body and then entered into another subtle body and then another subtle body. And like this, when she went to the realm where basically the form and the formless, they sort of start merging into each other. Beyond that, she will go into the formless. So at that point, she saw the prototype of this human-like figure. So it has come from very high. Basically, this figure, this form of the human being, this is also something very significant. Very significant. It is the, nature as an artist has carved it out and sort of chiseled it out through eons and eons of evolution. It's not just happened overnight. And that is why nature sticks. इसीलिए ये सब जो बोलते हैं ना, मतलब कई बार sometimes we tend to hear कि if human beings don't collaborate, then nature will choose a dolphin or this or that. I mean, I find that totally bunkum. Because no matter what, the form of the human being is something extremely beautiful from the point of view of nature, and it is something in which he has invested so much energy, like that. So, I mean, just I'm sorry if it was a little divergent, but yeah,
ये
even
पुरुष
the most important point कि why do human beings tend to admire themselves when they see अरे भैया उसके पीछे vanity वगैरह होगी, but उसका spiritual reason ये है. It is the most perfect form created by the great mother nature herself. Right? Somebody was saying something. मैं बीच में बोल रहा था.
अनमोल, पुरुषा का धातु रूट वर्ड क्या है?
पुरीशेते इति पुरुषः. So puri means pur means actually city, but
yeah.
here it is used for body. So puri shete means sleep. So that which sleeps in the body is called the purusha. तो वो उसका धातु है, but that is referring to the spiritual meaning. ठीक है? यहाँ पे जो वो शब्द कह रहे हैं, यहाँ पे वो फॉर्म की बात कर रहे हैं. ठीक है? The psychic being is usually seen in form as a purusha. So here he means purusha is the word used for the human being. Man, the purusha, like that.
Thank you.
Purusha से basically उनका मतलब है एक being. But obviously, even the gods, we have half animal, half human forms of the divine also. Hayagriva, Ganesha, all these. But the most complete gods, जो highest gods हैं, they are all having human forms as conceived by humans, or as the form was suggested to that, as the form was suggested by that god to the human being who basically recorded it on paper or sculpture or whatever. But those forms are human. So there is a great significance of the form of the human being also. Okay. 9. The Jivatma and the soul are the same, but in two different statuses. Yeah. So the Jivatma is in that unchanging wala status, and the soul is in the evolving status. The Jivatma is the Ansha of the divine, standing above the consciousness as the individual self and unchanged by the evolution. Avikaryoyam uchyate. Aksharam, these two words. Avikarya and Akshara, immutable, does not change. कई बार हमने वो वर्स भी रेफर किया है गीता का जिसमें वो आता है अविकार्योयम उच्यते तस्माद् एवं विदित्वैनम नानुशोचितुम अर्हसि. Unchanged, untouched. It's important to understand this aspect, this highest and truest aspect of the individual consciousness. The soul is the same, descended into the evolution and developing its consciousness from life to life until, in the opening of knowledge, the psychic being realizes its oneness with the self above. So, yeah, same thing we had covered in different language last time, Yera. Till it is able to join itself with the free Atman above. This is the one. The psychic Antaratma is the individual being which comes down into life and travels from birth to birth and feels the experiences and grows by them. Then the crucial line, till it is able to join itself with the free Atman above. This is the key word here. Join. युक्त होना उसके साथ.
So Anmol bhai, after joining, that will become the Jivan Mukta and can re-enter and come back.
Yes. Once the joining has happened, once you have realized that you are the Jivatma, which is unchanging, immutable, etc., you are Mukta. For you coming into a terrestrial birth, it is not binding. Then you can come by your own sweet will, whether to yourself progress forward or to help others or to help the universe for whatever grand reason. But the compulsion of rebirth is over.
Right. So that is same as Bodhisattva or Jivan Mukta.
Bodhisattva का मैं नहीं कह सकता, that Buddhist vocabulary. Bodhisattva is actually a stage prior to the Buddha. So it is not the same as Jivan Mukta.
Acha.
They
So
say that
Jivan
Buddha
Mukta.
has 100 lives, had Bodhisattva, and then in the 100th life or whatever, he became the Buddha. So Bodhisattva is basically a state of the Sattvic Buddhi actually. It is still part of the Apara Prakriti.
Oh, so Jivan Mukta is much higher than that then.
Definitely. Jivan Mukta is Gunatita.
Guna. Acha. Okay. Thank you.
So, Anmol, if you see the last line, realizes its oneness with the self above.
Yes.
That means once the psychic entity or the soul spark,
Yeah.
the realization removes there is no psychic being after that. It's a constant. There is the central being and there is the psychic entity in harmony, knowing that they're both the same. The realization called the Jivan Mukta is just one universal entity. And as you said, it can take birth again or whatever. But the fact is that that is the whole evolution of the psychic being. It
Yes.
is only to realize that you are nothing but the same central
Exactly.
being,
Exactly.
which is the realized one is the psychic entity, which says, "Oh my God, it's me, it's me,
Yes.
it's me, it's me, and it's me."
Yes. Yes. To
So
realize that you are that unchanging self, that is the goal.
correct. So to do that, and we always refer to that conversation that if for 24 hours, for people who are into meditation, for people who are into yoga, the real way, where they completely immerse themselves to that reality, and if somebody can physically be in that state, people go into that 10-day program. There is that, I don't know what it's called, but
Vipassana.
it's like
Vipassana.
Vipassana, right? So for 10 days, if you can constantly be this, at the transformation is that you don't have to consider yourself to be the psychic being, but to realize you are the psychic entity. So at some stage, it will happen automatically. After 10 days of meditation,
Yeah.
why is it so? I mean, here is the scripture telling you again, 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 and again. So where's the challenge?
No, the challenge is making it stable and constant. In 10 days, you can get a glimpse of that, or you might be in it for some time. But the thing is, you have to fix it there so that the consciousness does not come back. आई टोल्ड यू ना, मुझे वो एस्केप वेलोसिटी का एग्जांपल दिया था कि जो रॉकेट होता है उसको जियो स्टेशनरी बनाने के लिए यू हैव टू गिव इट द एस्केप वेलोसिटी. दैट इज इन योगा टर्म्स द इंटेंसिटी ऑफ तपस्या, द फ्यूअल ऑफ तपस्या एंड द फायर ऑफ तपस्या दैट यू हैव टू पुट इन. Until that fuel is put in, it will not get the escape velocity, it will not become geostationary. It's like that. The Muladhara chakra will act as a gravitation and it will drag you downward. Sex, power, lust, all these greed, anger, etc., all these lower things will try to pull you down. But well and truly, when you have gotten that much, pump inside you, that fire of fuel inside you, when you can become that geostationary, then you can say that you are realized. This is just an analogy.
Right, right. Beautiful. It really explains it well. Thanks.
Welcome. Okay, so we are about to finish the time. We'll just finish this one. The ego is quite different. Now he's explaining the third thing, part of the Apara Prakriti. The ego is quite different. It is a creation of Prakriti. Several times we have referred to that shloka, 7.4 of the Gita. Bhumirapo nalo vayuhu khammano buddhirevacha ahankara iti yamme bhinnah prakritir ashtadha. This is the ashtadha or eightfold Prakriti, and ego is part of that, right? It's the fulcrum of the lower nature. It is the thing in the lower nature around which everything else is wound together, tied together. Okay. The ego is quite different. It is a creation of Prakriti, and part of Prakriti, which, what is its purpose? It centralizes the thoughts, desires, passions, etc. of the nature and is involved in them entirely. The ego is not a real and eternal existence. Very, very important. The ego is not real. It is simply a formation. It is not the eternal thing in itself. The ego is not, उसका अस्तित्व ही नहीं है. It's the, what should I say? It's an evolutionary mechanism. But it's merely a mechanism. It has no true existence. It's very important. For all of us, I'm not sure if anybody is totally free from ego. बट वो जो संतप्त होते हैं हम कि हे भगवान मैं इतना ईगोइस्टिक क्यों हूँ, या मेरे अंदर ये इतने ईगो के मूवमेंट्स हो रहे हैं, सो सिंपली दिस वन सेंटेंस कैन हेल्प इन लिबरेशन फ्रॉम ऑल दोस टॉर्मेंट्स एंड टॉर्चर्स. द ईगो इज नॉट अ रियल एंड इटर्नल एग्जिस्ट. वो रियल है ही नहीं. ठीक है, ये केवल सोच लेने से, मान लेने से हम उससे मुक्त नहीं हो जाएंगे, बट सर्टनली दिस विल help us and it will go a long way in helping us to become free from ego. ये समझ लेने से कि वो है ही नहीं, उसका अस्तित्व ही नहीं है. वास्तविक रूप से देखा जाए तो ईगो नाम की कोई चीज है ही नहीं. अस्तित्व केवल अंतरात्मा का है, केवल ईश्वर का है. राइट. सो द ईगो इज नॉट अ रियल एंड इटर्नल एग्जिस्टेंस, बट ओनली अ, जैसे मैंने वर्ड यूज किया ना, फॉर्मेशन ऑफ नेचर. वो केवल एक फॉर्मेशन है. इट हैज टू डिसअपियर by the coming of knowledge and be replaced by the true psychic and spiritual self.
So, Anmol, this explains the fact that it's all desire, right? This false formation of mind body complex, which is the vital, the physical, and the mind, the mental, all of them can play on you as long as there is a creation and emergence of desire. The moment there's no desire, this has no control. The remote control of this false formation is desire.
Yeah. And the reason of desire being there is ego. Ego means separate, na? When you will feel that you are yourself and this thing is this thing, then only you will desire that thing, na?
Correct.
When the separation itself is not there, then why will you desire? You already possessed it. आपको पता चल गया कि ये तो मैं ही हूं, तो जब वो मैं ही हूं तो फिर मुझे उसे चाहने की इच्छा क्यों रहेगी? रहेगी ही नहीं.
No, but there, Anmol, if that was the case, then the Pandavas wouldn't have fought the Kauravas, na? He would have said, "यार उसको मिला वो उसने
They were not.
पांच." If
They were not
the fact
realized
that there
beings.
was there, if there was no concept of doing what is to be done, they would have said, "Okay, let the Kauravas have the empire."
Very true.
But something propelled them to say no. The
Yes.
empire cannot be theirs, right?
Yes. And the reasons for that,
So
I can again tell what is the reason for that.
Yeah, what was the reason for that?
The reason for that was that this Sri Aurobindo has only told, I mean, I'll have to copy paste that sentence again. There was an accumulation of a lot of tyrannical and bad Kshatriya power in India at that time. Many of the Kshatriyas, they had become terribly tyrannical. It was a very violent and asuric kind of Kshatriya power that had gotten hold of the country. Okay. Jarasandh was one of the main people. And he was so powerful, you cannot even fight him in a war and this and that. So he had to be killed by cunning. He had to be, वो मल्ल युद्ध के लिए उसको invite करके भीम के द्वारा उसको मरवाया. So Krishna's aim in Mahabharata was to establish Yudhishthir as the Samrat of India, and one thing, who is a Dharmaraj, ठीक है, he is an incarnation of Dharma. And ये जितने भी बुरे क्षत्रिय हैं, all these tyrannical people, to bring them all together at one place and wipe them off. This is the reason, this is the political reason for the Mahabharata war.
But Anmol bhai, apart from the political reason, if we link it to what
उसके
you
और भी
just
reasons हैं,
read,
हाँ, और भी हैं उसके.
so like
क्या
नहीं,
मतलब?
वो लोग, they were sattvic, all of them. So
Who?
sattvic ego, right?
हाँ.
So sattvic ego is the reason. Can it not be said that
वो
way?
ठीक है, वो तो सब इंस्ट्रूमेंटल में है, मैं एकदम उसके रूट की बात कर रहा हूँ. एंड अच्छा, व्हाट वाज द प्रॉब्लम विद दिस? इफ ऑल दोस tyrannical kshatriyas had been allowed to remain, then what would have happened? Then what would have happened is that Alexander would not have come in 327 BC. He would have come in 3000 BC itself, because the country would have become weak because of these people. This is Sri Aurobindo's explanation. That because Krishna consolidated the Kshatriya power, the true Kshatriya power in good people. So through that consolidation of good Kshatriya power, the country was able to defend itself for another 2000 years. And then some minor breach happened, and then little more like that it happened. वो पूरा एक वो है, I'll send that. It's a very, very beautiful and powerful text of Sri Aurobindo. I'll send it. You can appreciate and understand for yourself more. Right?
Anmol,
Yes.
the ego is also a very important aspect. It
Yes,
says it is the
yes.
biggest supporter and a hurdle.
Yes. Ego is the helper, ego is the bar. Which
Yeah.
is in the sentence.
Yeah. Could you just explain that ego is a
Yes.
helper and ego is a bar?
Yes. So here only he's saying it centralizes the thoughts, desires, passions, etc. See, if you do not have ego, what will happen? You will not have sense of individuality. एंड वो जो गठन होना है ना, वो जो संगठन होना है पर्सनालिटी का, ऑफ यू बिकमिंग एन इंडिविजुअल. मदर इसके लिए जो एग्जांपल यूज करते हैं, यू आर लाइक अ कॉर्क ऑन द वाटर्स. तो वो जो मतलब बॉटल का ढक्कन होता है, वो बस पानी की लहर आई, उड़ा के ले गई, ऐसे ले गई, ऐसे ले गई, लाइक दैट. यू डू नॉट हैव एनी फॉर्म्ड इंडिविजुअलिटी. So it is that ego mechanism of nature which centralizes you, which makes you an individual. Without that, you are the plaything of the forces of the world. You know, that is why people who have a strong individuality, तो अभी भले ही वो आपको egoistic appear हो रहे हो, but the moment that shift happens and they offer that individuality to the divine, they can become very powerful instruments of the divine. Is it clear somehow what I'm saying?
Not really.
Not really. Okay. So I'll go slowly. So the purpose of the ego is to make an individual out of ourselves, to give us a distinct individuality. अच्छा मान लीजिए, अच्छा जैसे यहाँ पे लिखा है centralizes the thoughts, desires, passions, etc. Now if you do not have that centralizing thing, कोई भी थॉट आया, किसी दूसरे की डिजायर आई, कहीं से कुछ पैशन वैशन कुछ भी एक्सटर्नल चीज आई, इफ यू आर नॉट, if you're not individualized, if you're not centralized, you will simply start accepting that person's thoughts, that person's desires. आपका खुद का कुछ नहीं है. So, you know, you're like a very fluxy thing. Yeah, it's just very, it's very fluxy is not a right word, English word. Basically very fluid, very fluid. You've not really, you're not become an individual. आपका
Not
खुद का कोई अस्तित्व ही नहीं है.
अस्तित्व, existence, your
Exactly.
own mind.
Exactly. हाँ. तो पहले आपको खुद को अपने आप को संगठित करना है. You have to become an individual. Very important. Good. Very good that you mentioned it. I forgot to mention it. It's very important. Ego का जगह है. And I
Anmol
must
bhai.
add here, some of the spirituality, just 1 minute. Some of the spirituality which is preached in modern times also today by, you know, even मतलब famous gurus and big gurus, कई बार उनके सेशंस में वो ईगो को किल करने के नाम पे आपका आत्मसम्मान को मतलब इट जस्ट क्रश्ड. एंड आई डोंट एग्री विद दोस प्रोसेसेस. वो गलत हो जाता है. मतलब उसका एक प्लेस है, उसकी एक जगह है. मतलब somehow they don't explain it that well. I'm sure they are not stupid that they don't know. But वो ना becoming a doormat and all that, that is not spirituality. That is not spirituality.
Standing for yourself.
Yes, definitely. Definitely. Shri
Anmol.
Aurobindo was an employee of the Maharaja. Just last example, then I'll stop. So the Maharaja released a circular from this weekend onwards. Even on Saturday, you have to come. Shri Aurobindo said, I will not come. I will not come. Maharaja knew his worth. So obviously he didn't say anything to him. Baroda का महाराज था. Bank of Baroda basically वहीं से start हुआ है. So, yeah.
Thank you.
There is a beautiful letter by the mother. आपको अगर देखना है ना, volume 7 में, if you permit, I'll just read the beginning of it. Or Anmol bhai, if you
Dhaval
can.
bhai, say, Yogesh has a question.
Oh, sorry, I didn't know.
Yeah. So Anmol, in this evolution, as you know, what I like, truly, I think what was lovely about today's session is it explained the ego, which we are discussing right now, the psychic being, the psychic entity, the central being. Everything came up in today's lecture, right? But the part is that the evolution of the ego is also on three qualities or three gunas of tamasic, rajasic, and sattvic. And only after sattvic do you evolve to the others, right? So if we don't have the ego as a sattvic entity, how will we even aspire for divinity and
You will not.
evolve, to evolve to the next step, to be
You will not.
Trigunati?
You will not. You will not. The
So
fact
I
that
need
we are
the
in this
ego to
session,
be, hai na?
the fact that we are in this session and trying to understand this is proof that the sattva guna is in us is developed enough. At least right now it is active and developed enough so that we are trying to understand all this adhyatmic knowledge.
Right.
Please read volume 7. It is an eye-opener letter by
You
the
can
mother.
paste that on the group. We've already overshot the time by 10 minutes.
हाँ.
Can you please paste that on the group?
हाँ, ये link ही है. Okay, I'll paste the link on the group. But it's worth reading this small thing. A
आप पढ़
helper.
दो, जिसको जाना होगा चला जाएगा. You just read it now and then.
हाँ. Ego a helper, right? Certainly, mother says, if one were to lose one's ego too soon from the vital and the mental point of view, one would again become an amorphous mass,
Exactly, that is the word.
If one had the power of abolishing the ego ahead of time, one would lose one's individuality. Then further she says it's a barrier also, but once the individuality has been formed, the ego becomes not only useless but harmful. And only then comes the time when it must be abolished. But naturally, as it has taken so much trouble to build you, it does not give up its work so easily. And it asks for the reward of its efforts. That is, to enjoy the individuality. So this is, and she says, the ego is surely an instrument for individualization.
Exactly.
That is, until one is an individualized being, constituted in himself, the ego is an absolutely necessary factor.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
I'm just reading from my notes here.
No, no, it's absolutely
Nahin,
beautiful.
Dhaval bhai,
It really,
please
very
paste
nice.
this on the
Please
group.
share.
This is very, very important and practical.
So should I paste the entire? Because see,
Nahin, do
I
not
was
paste
asking
from your
this.
note. My request would be to search this on the Incarnate Word and paste the exact text from there with the
No,
link.
that section of the note, I have asked this question to myself because see, these words are a package deal. The question is, I keep hearing the words ignorance, ego, individuality, personality very often. And how different are they? So it's just I made some effort to demystify, and
Okay, तो आप इसको share कर देना and
ठीक है।
then I'll just search in Incarnate Word.
नहीं,
and
उसमें
it
सब
will-
में लिंक है भाई, वो जो है ना,
So just
वो
then
जो
share the text and the link, please.
हाँ, the entire PDF of that section I will share it.
Okay,
right?
thank you
And
so much.
Anmol, please share the recording again. I mean, I want to listen to this today again. Just share the recording, please.
I'll do that.
Thanks.
We'll just close with a half a minute of silence.